Number 38, the inverse tangent of the tangent of 11 pi over 6. So first we'll find 11 pi over 6. So 2 pi is the same thing as 12 pi over 6. So 11 pi over 6 is going to have a reference angle, theta prime, of pi over 6. So what I'm looking for is the tangent of pi over 6 in quadrant 4. Tangent is negative in this quadrant, in both quadrants 4 and quadrants 2. Tangent theta is equal to y over x when defined by a right triangle drawn in quadrant 1. So opposite over hypotenuse, opposite over adjacent is y over x. So in quadrant 4, since the y value is negative and the x value is positive, I'm going to get a negative answer. So tangent pi over 6. Pi over 6 is like a 30-degree angle, or is a 30-degree angle. So we can use the values 1, square root of 3, and 2 for my pi over 6. So tangent of pi over 6 is going to be 1 over root 3, but negative. So I'm taking the inverse tangent of negative 1 over root 3, or the inverse tangent of negative root 3 over 3. So I want to know what angle has a tangent equal to negative 1 over root 3. Well, 11 pi over 6 does, because if you take the tangent of 11 pi over 6, that works. But when we do inverse functions, when we are evaluating an inverse, we need to use a restricted domain on the original trig graph. So trig graph from 0 to 2 pi, or from negative 2 pi to 2 pi, has asymptotes at negative pi over 2 and pi over 2. And then from pi over 2 to 3 pi over 2. And then from 3 pi over 2 to 5 pi over 2, etc. I'm looking for negative 1 over root 3, or negative root 3 divided by 3. But the tangent graph is restricted to be between negative pi over 2 and pi over 2. So that way the inverse on that domain, the inverse is a function from negative pi over 2 to pi over 2. In this section, the function, the tangent graph passes the vertical line test and the horizontal line test. So the answer that I'm looking for, instead of 11 pi over 6, because 11 pi over 6 would be right here on the graph, I'm looking for that value inside this box, and so that is at negative pi over 6. So if I started at 0 on that unit circle, then I went down or counterclockwise negative pi over 6.